everybody. How's it going? Time to make some coffee and get our read on. Alright, alright. Pulling up my sleeveys so that I don't get any coffee on them. How's it going this morning for everybody? Everybody feeling good? Morning. I feel like I'm waddling a little today. Outline shift some coloring and cut it for both. Oh, I love that. That's exciting. I'm glad that you're here. Hopefully today is just as good as yesterday. Alright. Make of a coffee. Drink of the coffee. Do the whole thing. Like we do. Standard. Anyone doing anything interesting today? I will be working all day. We have class later, among many other things I have to do today. Farmer's market, of course, like you do. What else? Anything? Good morning. Good morning, good morning. To go to the post office. Me and my friends are exchanging and watching Wicked. That's awesome. I was just talking to my doula, and we were thinking about bringing a laptop to the hospital to turn Wicked on while I'm in labor. I don't see an issue with it. Anybody? Thoughts, hopes, dreams? That's my current plan for distraction. Like, I'll have my own little sing-along in the hospital. Whatever. Yeah, I don't see an issue there. Bring a laptop and just live your life. Yeah, I mean, like, where's the downside, honestly? It'll just be me and secret husband and her in the hospital room. Who's gonna tell us no, right? So, that's my current plan. It'll definitely distract me, right? I mean, like, that seems like... I'm sure that at the bare minimum, it'll make me a little happier. Yeah, I don't see why not, Crystal. I really don't. I don't see any downside to it. The attempt will be there regardless, yeah. The attempt will be there regardless. I was watching F1 races. See, there you go. Exactly. I'm with you. Hey, Brittany. Good morning. Joshua got to watch it finally the other day and enjoyed it. Oh, good. Secret husband has already seen it because he went to the movie with me. What are you doing? I'm just making coffee. Just making coffee. You're gonna see Moana 2 today. I am on the fence about. I probably won't see Moana 2 in the theaters. I'll probably wait until it's streaming. Oh, that, yes. Bringing a laptop to the hospital, watch Wicked, yes. Yeah, I have also heard mixed things, Susan. I've even heard mixed things from some friends who are like a couple, and their opinions were different. So it's interesting, and they're both performers. So I don't know. I guess we'll see, right? Good morning, everybody. Let's have our coffee. Okay. Coffee for secret husband, coffee for Sasha. All good. Yummy. So delicious. I can't get enough of it. Sadly, we took down our Christmas decorations yesterday, not because I don't love having Christmas decorations up in January, but because we were worried that if we weren't proactive and didn't take them down in a timely manner, that I would accidentally go into labor and then they'd be stuck up forever. So we're back in our old spot, and the Monstera is back over here behind me, and it's growing like crazy. It's got 4 new leaves that are trying to break open right now. This Monstera is freaking humongous compared to when we got it. I'm not even joking, y'all. When we got it, it was only in a pot that was this big, and it is that big now. It's bigger than me. Yeah, it was the smart choice to undecorate right now. I agree. Like, usually I like to leave up my Christmas decorations until mid-January at least, because I really love them, you know? But I just don't want to go into labor and have the decorations still up and then be stuck with them forever. No, we did not have the baby yet. It would be way too early. I mean, I guess not technically, because other people have had their babies this early, but I just posted a bump update like 2 days ago. Oh, we're done, Amanda. We are pretty much done setting everything up. I took mine down on the 26th. I put mine up right. Yeah, that's totally understandable. So my birthday is around Christmas, so I love all the decorations and everything, so I usually leave it up a little longer, but I was just concerned, especially because we have to get the stuff like into my mom's car to go to the garage and stuff, and she's coming tomorrow, so I wanted to put it in her car tomorrow, because if we don't do it tomorrow, then we have to wait till the 2 weeks from now, and I was like, that's pushing it. 2 weeks from now, the baby could be coming. I love decorations too, but as soon as the kids get better, we're taking them down because it's hard. Yeah. So, you know, it's not that we didn't love them. I do love Christmas, but baby's coming. There are some things I do need to re-clean, Amanda, and I will tell you why, okay? I have put her whole room together, but Secret Husband has a penchant for putting things in the crib as like a holding zone, and I'm like, you are making her sheets dirty every time you put something there, so I'm waiting until the end of next week, and then I'm going to rewash all her sheets, because I'm like, you have to stop putting things in the crib just because the baby isn't here yet. And I don't say anything because I know he's not doing it as like a mean thing, but like when we're cleaning the house, he's like, oh, I'll put her stuff in here, and it's like, you know, yeah, I would do that if we had cats, Susan. We don't have any pets right now, but it's so funny. And so I'm like, babe, the crib is only for baby. We don't put anything else in the crib. And he said, well, it's just for right now. She's not here yet. No. And I have to train him out of using the bassinet for laundry also. It's funny. It was a natural cat. It is a natural catch-all, Whitney. That's why I'm saying I don't blame him for the inclination. But as soon as I rewash her sheets, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. Once her sheets are rewashed, I don't want to have to think about it again until she comes. I have, I think, one more load of laundry to do for her for like clothes that we've been given, that are some hand-me-downs, and they're wonderful. Yeah, right, Renee. And then we've sterilized and washed all the bottles of Proton multi-layer sheets. Yes, we do have that actually, Amanda. We have 2 layers underneath, and then her cute sheets on top. Oh, the bassinet for laundry seems actually smart, but it needs to use very, yeah, right. Maybe drop a spare sheet over to take away the temptation. I know, I need to do something. But we're getting close, and I think if I just, especially once we put the car seat in the car, I think it will be more like present. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it could be any time now. Like, we're not putting the car seat in the car right now. Actually, this weekend we are testing putting the car seat in the car, but we're not going to leave it in the car. Reason being, we know if anything happens, we would have to get a new car seat, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to test putting it in, put the base in, take the car seat out, and then just have it in the hallway with the suitcases in case of emergency. But I think that will make it very much more present. So anyway, that's the fun. So let's get princessy. We are reading the Princess Diaries for anyone who missed yesterday. It is phenomenal. Every bit of good that I remembered is here. I have not read this book since 2001, so I was surprised how fluidly it rolls for me. I used a bed-sized fitted sheet over the crib, but you know what? That's smart. Yeah. The author is Meg Cabot. Yes, Meg Cabot, who happens to be my favorite. What time is class? 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Pacific time. Yes, and there will be a link posted for that. What do you think about Princess Diaries 3? Can't wait. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. The book series is 11 books long. There's a lot to do here. So let's get into it. You are so welcome. And there's not like chapters because it's diary entries, so it's by day. So we're just gonna go for the time. My client's nowhere delayed. You can watch along, Gigi, and then do it later. It's actually a really simple one. This is like one where we can do a whole bunch of stuff. So you can make your base and then add the rest when it comes. It's totally not a problem. So for anyone who missed yesterday, the last thing that we had happen was that her dad had told her that she's a princess. And for anyone who's only ever seen the movie, you may not know this, but her dad is very much still alive in the books. And if you want to hear a story about why he's not alive in the movies, I can tell you later, because I went to a Q&A with Meg Cabot and she talked about it and it was hysterical. But that was like 10 years ago. So anyway, right. Later on Thursday, Penguin House, Central Park Zoo. I'm so freaked out that I can barely write. Plus, like, people keep bumping my elbow, and honestly, it's dark in here, but whatever. I have to get this down exactly the way it happened. Otherwise, when I wake up tomorrow, I might just think it was a nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. I'm not going to tell anybody, not even Lily. Lily would not understand. Nobody would understand because nobody has ever been in this situation before. Nobody ever went to bed one day and then went to bed one night as one person and then woke up the next morning to find out that she was somebody completely different. When I got back to our table after hiccuping in the ladies' room at the plaza, I saw that the German tourists had been replaced by some Japanese tourists. Okay, fine, this is an improvement. They were much quieter. My dad was on his cell phone when I sat back down. He was talking to my mom. I realized that right away. He had an expression that he wears only when he's talking to her. He was saying, "Yes, I told her. No, she doesn't seem upset." And then he looked at me and he said, "Are you upset?" And I said, "No, because I wasn't upset, at least not then." And then he said into the phone, "She says no." He listened for a minute and then he looked at me again. "Do you want your mother to come up here and help explain things to you?" And I shook my head. "No, she has to finish that mixed media piece for the Kate Tate Gallery. They want it by next Tuesday." My dad repeated this to my mom and I heard her grumble back. She's always grumbly when I remind her the paintings are due on a certain day. My mom likes to work when the muse moves within her. And since my dad pays most of our bills, this isn't usually a problem. But it's not a very responsible way for an adult to behave, even if she is an artist. I swear, if I ever met my mom's muses, I'd give them a swift kick in the toga and they wouldn't know what hit them. Finally, my dad hung up and he looked at me and he said, "Better." So I guess he had noticed that the hiccups were there after all. Better, I said. Do you really understand what I'm telling you, Mia? I nodded. Yeah, you're the Prince of Genovia. Yes, he said like there was more. I didn't know what else to say, so I tried. Grandpierre was the Prince of Genovia before you? He said, yes. So Grandmere is what? The Dowager Princess. I winced. Ew, that explained a whole lot about Grandmere. Dad could tell that he had me stumped, and he kept on looking at me all hopeful-like. And finally, after I tried just smiling at him innocently for a while and that didn't work, I slumped over and I said, okay then, what? He looked disappointed. Mia, don't you know? I had my head on the table. You're not supposed to do that at the plaza, but I hadn't noticed Ivanka Trump looking our way. This was written a long time ago, you guys. No, I said, I guess not. No what? You're not Mia Thermopolis anymore, honey, he said. Because I was born out of wedlock and my mom doesn't believe in what she calls the cult of the patriarchy, she did give me her last name instead of my dad's. So I raised my head at that. I'm not, I said, blinking a few times. All right, then who am I? And he went, kind of sadly. You're Amelia Mignonette Grimaldi Thermopolis Romualdo, Princess of Genovia. Okay, sorry, what? A princess? Me? Yeah, right. That is not how, this is how not a princess I am. I am so not a princess that when my dad started telling me that I was a princess, I started to cry. I could see my reflection in this big gold mirror across the room, and my face had gotten all splotchy like it does in PE whenever we play dodgeball and I get hit. I looked at my face in that big mirror and I was like, this is the face of a princess? You should see what I look like. You have never seen anyone that looks less like a princess than I do. I mean, I have really bad hair that isn't curly or straight. It's just kind of like a triangle, so I have to wear it really short, and I kind of look like a yield sign. And then it isn't blonde or brunette. It's like somewhere in the middle. It's this color that they call mousy brown, or I don't know, dishwater blonde. Attractive, huh? Yeah. And I have a really big mouth, no breasts, and feet that look like skis. Lily says my only attractive feature is my eyes, which are gray, but right then they were all squinty and red looking because I was trying not to cry. I mean, princesses don't cry, right? And then my dad reached out and started patting my hand. Okay, look, I love my dad, but he just has no clue. He just kept saying how sorry he was and how I couldn't say anything in reply because I was afraid if I talked, I'd cry harder. And then he kept on saying how it wasn't that bad and that I would like living in the palace in Genovia with him and that I could come back and visit my friends as often as I wanted, and that is when I lost it. Not only am I a princess, but I have to move too. I stopped crying almost right away because I got mad, like really mad. I don't get mad that often because of my fear of confrontation and all that, but when I do get mad, watch out. I am not moving to Genovia, I said in a really loud voice. I know it was loud because all the Japanese tourists turned around and looked at me, and then they started whispering to one another. My dad, he looked kind of shocked. Last time I yelled at him, it had been like years ago, when he agreed with Grandmere that I ought to eat foie gras, and I don't care if it is a delicacy in France. I am not eating anything that once walked around and quacked. But Mia, my dad said in his now let's me reasonable voice, I thought you understood. All I understand, I said, is that you lied to me my whole life. Why should I go live with you? I realized this was a completely teen primetime drama thing to say, and I'm sorry that I followed it up with some pretty teen drama queen kind of behavior. But I stood up really fast, knocked over my big gold chair, and rushed out of there, nearly bowling over the snobby doorman. I think my dad did try to chase me, but I can run really fast when I want to, and Mr. Wheaton is always trying to get me to try out for track, but that's like such a joke because I hate running for no reason. A letter on a stupid jacket really isn't a reason to run, at least not as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I ran down the street, past the stupid touristy horses and carriages, past the fountain with the big gold statues on it, past the traffic outside the FAO Schwartz, and right into Central Park, where honestly it was getting kind of dark and cold and spooky and stuff, but I didn't care. Nobody was going to attack me because I was this like 5'9" girl running with combat boots and a big backpack with bumper stickers on it that said stuff like support Greenpeace and I break for animals. Anyway, nobody messes with a girl in combat boots, particularly if she's also a vegetarian. After a while, I got tired of running, and then I tried to figure out where I could go. And since I wasn't ready to go home yet, I knew I couldn't go to Lily's. She's vehemently opposed to any government of any kind, not by the people, exercised either directly or through elected representatives. She said always that when sovereignty is vested in a single person, whose right to rule is hereditary, the principles of society, social equality, and respect for the individual within a community are irrevocably lost. That's why today real power has passed from reigning monarchs to constitutional assemblies, making royals such as Queen Elizabeth merely just a symbol of national unity. At least that's what she said in her oral report in World Civ the other day. And I guess I do kind of agree with Lily, especially about Prince Charles. He did treat Diana like dirt, but my dad isn't like that. Yeah, okay, he plays polo and all, but he would never dream of subjecting anyone to taxation without representation. Still, I was pretty sure the fact that the people of Genovia don't have to pay taxes wasn't going to make any difference to Lily. I knew the first thing my dad was going to do was call my mom, and she would be like all worried. I hate making my mom worry. Even though she can be very irresponsible at times, it's only with things like bills and groceries. She's never irresponsible about me. Like, I have friends whose parents don't even remember sometimes to give them subway fare. I have friends who tell their parents they're going to so-and-so's apartment, and then instead they go out drinking and their parents never find out because they don't even check in with the other kids' parents. My mom's not like that. She always checks. So I knew it wasn't fair to run off like that and make her worry. I didn't care much about it then or what my dad thought. I was pretty much just hating him at that point. But then I had to be alone for a little while. I mean, it takes some getting used to, you know? Finding out you're a princess. I guess some girls might like it, but not me. I've never been good at girly stuff, you know, like putting on makeup, wearing pantyhose, all that stuff. I mean, look, I can do it if I have to, but I'd rather not. I'd much rather not. Anyway, I don't know how, but my feet sort of knew where they were going, and before I knew it, I was at the zoo. I love the Central Park Zoo. I always have, ever since I was a little kid. It's way better than the Bronx Zoo because it's like small and cozy, and the animals are much friendlier, especially the seals and the polar bears. I do love polar bears. At the Central Park Zoo, they have this one polar bear, and all he does all day long is the backstroke. I swear. He was on the news because this animal psychologist was worried that he was under too much stress, but it must have just sucked to have people look at you all day. Anyway, they bought him some toys, and after that he was kind of okay again. He just kicks back in his enclosure. They don't have cages at the Central Park Zoo. They have enclosures, and you know, he just watches you while you watch him. Sometimes he holds a ball while he does it. I really love that bear. So after I forked over a couple of dollars to get in, that's the other good thing about the zoo. It's cheap. I paid a little call on the polar bear. He appears to be doing just fine, much better than I was at the moment anyway. I mean, his dad hadn't just told him he was the heir to the throne of anywhere. I wonder where that polar bear came from. I hope he was from Iceland. After a while, it got too crowded at the polar bear enclosure, so then I went into the penguin house. It smells kind of bad in here, but it is fun. There are these windows that look underwater so that you can see the penguins swimming around, sliding on the rocks, and having just like a good old penguin time. Little kids put their hands on the glass, and when a penguin swims toward them, they start screaming. It totally cracks me up. There's a bench you can sit on too, and that is where I'm sitting right now, writing this. You get used to the smell after a little while. I guess you can get used to anything. Oh my God, I can't believe I just wrote that. I will never get used to being Princess Amelia Ronaldo. I don't even know who that is. It sounds like the name of some stupid line of makeup or somebody from a Disney movie who's been missing and just recovered her memory or something like that. What am I gonna do? I can't move to Genovia. I just can't. Who would look after fat Louie? My mom can't. She forgets to feed herself, let alone my cat. I'm sure that they won't let me have a cat in the palace, at least not a cat like Louie who weighs 25 pounds and he eats socks. He'd scare all the ladies in waiting. Oh God, what am I gonna do? If Lana Weinberger finds out about this, I'm dead. It might be Ronaldo in the movie, I'm not sure, but it's definitely Ronaldo in the books. I don't know. Or maybe it's just the accent that we're hearing in the movie. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Princess of Genovia. Even later on Thursday. Of course, I couldn't hide out in the penguin house forever. Eventually, they flicked the lights and they said, "The zoo's closing." So I put my journal away and I filed out with everybody else. I guess I grabbed a downtown bus and I went home where I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I knew I'd be getting it big time from my mom. What I didn't count on was getting it from both of my parents at the same time. This was a first. "Where have you been, young lady?" my mom wanted to know. She was sitting at the kitchen table with my dad and a telephone between them. My dad said at the exact same time, "We were worried sick." I thought I was in for the grounding of a lifetime, but all they wanted to know was whether or not I was all right. And I assured them that I was, and I apologized for going all Jennifer Love Hewitt on them. I just needed to be alone, I said. I was really worried that they'd start in on me, but like they totally didn't. My mom did try to make me eat some ramen, but I wouldn't because it was beef flavored. And then my dad offered to send his driver to Nobu to pick up some blackened sea bass, but I was like, "Really, Dad? I just want to go to bed." And then my mom started feeling my head and stuff, thinking that I was sick. Clearly, this started to make me cry again. And I guess my dad recognized my expression from the palace because all of a sudden he was like, "Helen, just leave her alone." To my surprise, she did. And so I went into my bathroom and I closed the door and I took a long, hot bath. And then I got into my favorite pajamas, the cool red flannel ones, found Fat Louie where he was trying to hide under the futon couch. He doesn't like my dad so much. And then I went to bed. Before I fell asleep, I could hear my dad talking to my mom in the kitchen for a long time. His voice was rumbly like thunder, and it sort of reminded me of Captain Picard's voice on Star Trek The Next Generation. My dad actually has a lot in common with Captain Picard. You know, he's white and bald, and he rules over a small populace, except that Captain Picard always makes everything okay by the end of the episode, and I sincerely doubt that everything will be okay for me. Friday, October 3rd, homeroom. Today when I woke up, the pigeons that live on the fire escape outside my window were cooing away. Fat Louie was on the windowsill as well. Well, as much of him as could fit on the windowsill. Anyway, he was watching them. And the sun was shining, and I actually got up on time, and I didn't hit the snooze button 7,000 times. I took a shower, and I didn't cut my legs shaving them. I found a fairly unwrinkled blouse at the bottom of my closet, and I even got my hair to look halfway passable. I was in a good mood. It was Friday. Friday is my favorite day. Well, besides Saturday and Sunday. Friday always means 2 days. 2 glorious, relaxing days of no algebra are coming my way. And then I walked out into the kitchen and there was all this pink light coming through the skylight right onto my mom, who was wearing her best kimono and making French toast using egg beaters instead of real eggs, even though I'm no longer ovo-lacto since I realized that eggs aren't fertilized, so they could never have been baby chicks anyway. And I was set to thank her for thinking of me, and then I heard this rustling, and there was my dad sitting at the dining room table. Well, really, it's just a table since we don't have a dining room, but whatever. He was reading the New York Times in a suit at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I remembered. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten it. I am a princess. Oh my God. Everything good about my day just went right out the window after that. And as soon as he saw me, my dad was all, "Ah, Mia." And I knew I was in for it. He only says, "Ah, Mia," when he's about to give me a big lecture. He folded his paper all carefully and then he laid it down. My dad always folds papers carefully, making the edges all neat. My mom never does this. She usually just crumbles the pages up and leaves them out of order, like on the futon couch or next to the toilet. This kind of thing drives my father absolutely insane. And honestly, it's probably the reason that they never got married. My mom, I saw, had set the table with our best Kmart plates, the ones with the blue stripes on them and the green plastic cactus-shaped margarita glasses from IKEA. She'd even put a bunch of fake sunflowers in the middle of the table in a yellow vase. She had done this all to cheer me up, I know it, and she probably got up really early to do it too, but instead of cheering me up, it just made me sadder. Because I bet they don't use green plastic cactus margarita glasses for breakfast at the palace in Genovia. "We need to talk, Mia," my dad said. This is how his worst lectures always start, except this time he looked at me kind of funny-like before he started. "What's wrong with your hair?" I put my hand up to my head. "Why?" I thought my hair looked good for a change. "Nothing is wrong with her hair, Philippe," my mom said. She usually tries to ward off my dad's lectures if she can. Come on, sit down, Mia. Let's have some breakfast. I even heated up the syrup for the French toast just the way you like it. I appreciated this gesture on Mom's part. Look, I really did, but I was not going to sit down and talk about my future in Genovia. I mean, come on. So I was all, you know what? I'd love to. I really would, but I gotta go. I have a test in World Civ today, and I promised Lily that I would meet her to go over our notes together. Sit down. Boy, my dad can really sound like a starship commander in the Federation when he wants to, huh? So I sat. My mom shoveled some French toast onto my plate and I poured syrup over it and I took a bite, just to be polite. Honestly, it tasted like cardboard. Mia, my mom said. She was still trying to ward off my dad's lecture, but this really isn't as bad as you're making. Oh, sorry. She was trying to ward off my dad's lecture. I know you're upset and how upset you must be about the whole thing, but really, it isn't as bad as you're making it out to be. Oh, right. All of a sudden, you tell me a princess and I'm a princess, and I'm just supposed to be happy about it? I mean, my mom went on, most girls would probably be delighted to find out that their father is a prince. No girls I know, I thought. Okay, actually, that's not true. Lana Weinberger would probably love to be a princess. In fact, she already thinks she's one. Just think of all the lovely things that you could do if you went and lived in Genovia. My mom's face totally lit up as she started listing the lovely things I could have if I went to live in Genovia, but her voice sounded strange, as if she was playing a mom on TV or something. Like a car. You know how impractical it is to have a car here in the city, but in Genovia, when you turn 16, I'm sure Dad will buy you a... I pointed out that there are enough problems with pollution in Europe without my contributing to it. Diesel emissions are one of the largest contributors to the destruction of the ozone layer. But haven't you always wanted a horse? You have, haven't you? Well, in Genovia, you could have one, a nice gray one with spots on its back. Okay, that hurt. Mom, I said, my eyes filling up with tears. I completely couldn't help it. Suddenly, I was just bawling all over again. Yes, Lana was played by Mandy Moore in the movies. What are you doing? Do you really want me to go live with Dad? Is that it? Are you tired of me or something? Do you want me to go live with Dad so that you and Mr. Gianni can... I couldn't go on because I started crying so hard, but by then my mom was crying too. She jumped out of her chair and she came to the end of the table and started hugging me and saying, oh no, honey, how could you possibly think something like that? Well, now she stopped sounding like a TV mom. I just want the best for you. And as do I, my dad said, looking annoyed. He'd folded his arms across his chest and was leaning back in his chair watching us in an irritated way. Well, what's best for me is to stay right here and finish high school, I told him. And then I'm going to go join Greenpeace and I'm going to help save the whales. My dad looked even more irritated at that. You are not going to join Greenpeace, he said. Yeah, I am too, I said. It was totally hard to talk because I was still crying and all, but I told him, I am going to go to Iceland and I'm going to save the baby seals too. You most certainly are not. My dad didn't just look annoyed now, he looked mad. You are going to college. Vassar, I think, perhaps Sarah Lawrence. That made me cry even more. But before I can say anything, my mom held up her hand and was like, Philippe, don't. We aren't accomplishing anything here. Mia has to get to school anyway. She's already late. I started looking around for my backpack and coat really fast. Yeah, I said, I'm gonna renew my Metro card. Dad made this really weird French noise that he makes sometimes. It's halfway between a snort and a sigh. It's kind of like a pfft. And then he said, Lars will drive you. I told my dad that that was unnecessary since I meet Lily every day at Astor Place where we catch the Uptown Six together. Lars can pick up your little friend too. I looked at my mom. She was looking at my dad. Lars is my dad's driver. He goes everywhere my dad goes. For as long as I've known my dad, okay, for my whole life, he's always had a driver, usually a big beefy guy who used to work for the president of Israel or something like that. And now that I think about it, of course, I realize these guys aren't really drivers. They're bodyguards. Duh. Okay, so the last thing I wanted for my dad's bodyguard to drive me to school. How could I ever explain that to Lily? Oh, don't mind him, Lily. He's just my dad's chauffeur. Yeah, right. The only person at Albert Einstein High School who gets dropped off by a chauffeur is this totally rich Saudi Arabian girl named Tina Hakim Baba, who dad owns a big oil company or something, and everybody makes fun of her because her parents are all worried that she'll get kidnapped between 75th and Madison, where our school is, and 75th and 75th and 5th, where she lives. She even has a bodyguard who follows her around class to class and talks into the walkie-talkie to the chauffeur. It seems a little bit extreme if you ask me. But Dad was totally rigid on the driver thing. It's like, now that I'm officially a princess, there's all this concern for my welfare. Yesterday, when I was just me at Thermopolis, it was perfectly okay for me to ride the subway. Today, now that I'm Princess Amelia, forget it. Well, whatever. It didn't seem worth arguing over. I mean, there are way worse things that I have to worry about, like which country I'm going to be living in the near future. And as I was leaving, my dad made Lars come up to the loft and walked me down to the car. It was totally embarrassing. I overheard my dad say to my mom, "All right, Helen, who is this Gianni fellow Mia was talking about?" Oops. AB equals A plus B. Solve for B. AB minus B equals A. B, parentheses, A minus 1 equals A. B equals A over A minus 1. Whatever the hell that means. More Friday. Algebra. Lily could tell right away that something was up. Oh, she swallowed the whole story that I fed her about Lars. Oh, yeah, my dad's in town and he's got this driver, you know what I mean? But I couldn't tell her about the princess thing. I mean, all I kept thinking about was how disgusted Lily sounded during that part of her oral report when she mentioned how Christian monarchs used to consider themselves appointed agents of the divine and thus were responsible not to the people that they governed, but to God alone. And even though my dad hardly ever even goes to church except when Grandmere makes him, Lily believed me about Lars, but she was still all over me about the crying thing. She was like, "Why are your eyes so red and squinty? You've been crying. Why are you crying? Did something happen? What happened? Did you get another F in something?" I just shrugged and tried to look out the passenger window with the uninspiring view of the East Village crack houses, which we had to drive by to get to the FDR. "No, it's nothing," I said. "Just PMS." "It's not PMS. You had your period last week. I remember because you borrowed a pad from me after PE, and then you ate 2 whole packs of Yodels at lunch. Sometimes I really wish that Lily's memory wasn't so good." "All right, so spill. What happened? Did Fat Louie eat another sock?" First of all, it was like totally embarrassing to discuss my menstrual cycle in front of my dad's bodyguard. I mean, Lars is kind of a Baldwin. He was concentrating really hard on driving, and I don't know if he could hear us from the front seat, but it was embarrassing just the same. "It's nothing," I whispered. "Just my dad, you know?" "Oh," Lily said in her normal voice. Have I mentioned that Lily's normal voice is really loud? You mean the whole infertility thing? Is he still bummed out about that? My God, does he need self-actualization or what? Lily then went on to describe something she called the Jungian tree of self-actualization. She says, "My dad is way on the bottom branches, and he won't be able to reach the top of this thing until he accepts himself and stops obsessing over his inability to sire more offspring." I guess that's part of my problem. I'm way at the bottom of the self-actualization tree, like underneath the roots of it practically. But now that I'm sitting here in algebra, things don't really seem so bad. I mean, I thought about it all through homeroom, and I finally realized something. They can't make me be a princess. They really can't. I mean, this is America, for crying out loud. Here, you can be anything you want to be. At least that's what Mrs. Hollins always tells us when we study U.S. history. So if I can be whatever I want to be, I can be not a princess. Nobody can make me a princess, not even my dad, if I don't want to be one, right? So when I get home tonight, I'll just tell my dad, "Thanks, but no thanks. I just plan on being plain old Mia for now." Jeez, Mr. Gianni just called on me, and I totally had no idea what he was talking about because, of course, I was writing in this book instead of paying attention. My face feels like it's on fire. Lana is laughing her head off. Of course, she's such a wanker. What does he keep picking on me for anyway? Shouldn't he know by now that I do not know what the quadratic formula is from a hole in the ground? He's only picking on me because of my mom. He wants to make it look like he's treating me the same as everybody else in the class. Well, I'm not the same as everybody else in the class. Why do I need to know algebra anyway? They don't use algebra in Greenpeace, and I bet you don't need algebra if you're a princess. So however things do turn out, I'm covered. Cool. Solve for x equals a plus aby for y. X minus a equals aby. Oh, look, I just can't. This is what it is. I don't even know what I'm reading, you guys. I don't even know what this means, but that's what it says. It hurts my brain just to think about these equations. Really, really late on Friday, Lily Moskowitz's bedroom. Okay, so I blew off Mr. Gianni's help session after school. I know I shouldn't have. Believe me, Lily let me know that I shouldn't have. I know he has these help sessions just for people like me who are flunking. I know he does it in his own spare time, and he doesn't even get paid overtime for it or anything. But like, if I won't ever need algebra in the foreseeable future of my career, why do I need to go to class? I asked Lily if it would be okay if I spent the night at her house tonight, and she said only if I promised to stop acting like such a head case. I promised, even though I don't think I'm acting like a head case. But when I called my mom from the payphone in the lobby after school to ask her if it was okay if I stayed over at the Moskowitz's, she was all, actually, Mia, your father was really hoping that when you got home tonight, we could have another talk. Oh, great. I told my mom that although there was nothing I wanted to do more than have another talk, I was very concerned about Lily, whose stalker was recently released from Bellevue again. Ever since Lily started her cable access TV show, this guy named Norman had been calling in, asking her to take off her shoes. And according to the doctors Moskowitz, Norman is a fetishist. His fixation is feet, in particular, Lily's feet. He sends stuff for her to in care of the show, like CDs and stuffed animals and things like that. And then he writes that there'll be more where that came from if Lily would just take off her shoes on the air. So what Lily does is she takes off her shoes, all right, but then she throws a blanket over her legs and kicks her feet all over the ground and says, "Look, Norman, you freak, I took off my shoes. Thanks for the CD, you sucker." This angered Norman so much that he started wandering around the village looking for Lily. Everyone knows that Lily lives in the village since we filmed a very popular episode where Lily borrowed a pricing gun from Grand Union and stood on the corner of Bleecker and LaGuardia and told all the European tourists wandering around NoHo that if they wore a Grand Union price sticker on their foreheads, they'd get a free latte from Dean and DeLuca. A surprising amount of them actually believed her. Anyway, one day, a few weeks ago, Norman, the foot fetishist, found us in the park and started chasing us around, waving a $20 bill and trying to get us to take off our shoes. This was, well, very entertaining and hardly scary at all, especially because we just ran right up to the command post on Washington Square South and Thompson Street, where the 6th Precinct had been parking this enormous trailer so that they could secretly spy on drug dealers. By the way, you guys, when I lived in New York City, I lived literally half a block from the place that she's talking about right now, so this is very entertaining for me. We told the police that this weird guy was trying to assault us, and you should have seen it. About 20 undercover guys, even a guy that I thought was like an old homeless man sitting on a bench, anyway, jumped on Norman and dragged him screaming off to the mental ward. I always have such a good time when I'm with Lily. Anyway, Lily's parents told her that Norman just got out of Bellevue and that if she sees him, she's not to torment him anymore because he's just a poor obsessive compulsive with possible schizophrenic tendencies. Lily is devoting tomorrow's show to her feet. She's going to model every single pair of shoes she owns, but not once show her bare feet. She'll hope that this will drive Norman over the edge and he'll do something even weirder like get a gun and shoot at us. I'm not scared though. Norman has kind of thick glasses and I bet he couldn't actually hit anything, not even with a machine gun, which even a lunatic like Norman is allowed to buy in this country thanks to our totally unrestricted gun laws, which Michael Moskowitz says in his webzine will ultimately result in the demise of democracy as we know it. Foreshadowing. My mom was all totally not buying this though. She was all, Mia, I appreciate the fact that you want to help your friend through this difficult period with her stalker, but I really think you have more pressing responsibilities here at home. And I was all like, what responsibilities? Thinking that she was talking about the litter box, which I had to clean 2 days ago. And she was like, responsibility toward your father and me. And I just about lost it right there. Responsibilities. She is gonna tell me about responsibilities? When's the last time it ever occurred to her to drop off the laundry, let alone pick it up again? When is the last time she remembered to buy Q-tips or toilet paper or milk? And did she ever happen to think to mention in all my 14 years that I might possibly end up being the Princess of Genovia someday? She thinks that she needs to tell me about responsibilities. I nearly hung up on her, but Lily was sort of standing nearby practicing her house manager duties by switching on and off the lights at the school lobby. And since I promised not to act like a head case, and hanging up on my mother would definitely fall into head case category, I said this in a really patient voice. Don't worry, Mom. I won't forget to stop at Genevieve's on my way home tomorrow and pick up new vacuum cleaner bags. And then I hung up. Homework. Algebra. Problems 1 through 12. Page 119. English. Proposal. World Civ. Questions at the end of chapter 4. Gifted and talented. None. French. Use au revoir in the negative. Read lesson 1 to 3. Pot de pleurs. Biology. None. Saturday, October 4th. Early. Still at Lily's place. Why do I always have such a good time when I spend the night at Lily's? I mean, it's not like they've got stuff I don't have. In fact, my mom and I do have better stuff. The Moskowitzes only get a couple of movie channels, and because I took advantage of the last time Warner Cable bonus offer, we have all the channels. Cinemax and HBO and Showtime, all for the low, low rate of $19.99 per month. Plus, we have way better people to spy on through our windows, like Ronnie, who used to be Ronald, but now is called Ronette, and who has a lot of big fancy parties. And that skinny German couple who wear black all the time, even in the summer, and they never pull down their blinds. On 5th Avenue, where the Moskowitzes live, there's nobody good to look at, just other rich psychoanalysts and their children. And let me tell you, you don't see anything good through their windows, but it's like every time I spend the night here, even if all Lily and I do is hang out in the kitchen eating macaroons left over from Rosh Hashanah, I have a great time. Maybe that's because Maya, the Moskowitz's Dominican maid, never forgets to buy orange juice, and she always remembers that I don't like the pulpy kind. And sometimes, if she knows that I'm staying over, she'll pick up vegetable lasagna from Balducci's instead of a meat one, especially for me. And she did that last night. Or maybe it's because I never find moldy containers of anything in the Moskowitz's refrigerator. Maya throws away anything that's even 1 day past its expiration date. Even sour cream that still has the plastic covering around the lid. Even cans of Tab. And the doctors, Moskowitz, they never forget to pay the electricity bill. Con Ed has never once shut down their power in the middle of a Star Trek movie marathon. And Lily's mom, she always talks about normal stuff, like what a great deal she got on Calvin Klein pantyhose at Bergdorf's. Not that I don't love my mom or anything, I totally do. I just wish that I could be, or she could be, more of a mom and less of an artist. And I wish that my dad could be more like Lily's dad, who always wants to make me an omelet because he thinks I'm too skinny, and who walks around in his old college sweatpants when he doesn't have to go into the office and analyze anybody. Dr. Moskowitz would never wear a suit at 7 in the morning. Not that I don't love my dad. I do, I guess. I just don't understand how he could do something or let something like this happen. He's usually so organized. How could he have let himself become a prince? I just don't understand it. The best thing is, I guess, about going to Lily's is when I'm there, I don't have to think about the things like how I'm flunking algebra or how I'm the heir to the throne of a small European principality. I can just relax and enjoy some homemade poppin' fresh cinnamon buns, watch Pavlov, Michael Shelty, and try to herd Maya back into the kitchen every time she tries to come out. Michael Shelty tries to herd Maya back into the kitchen every time she comes out. That's rude. Last night was totally fun. The doctors Moskovitz were out. They had to go to a benefit at the Puck building for the homosexual children of survivors of the Holocaust. So Lily and I made this huge vat of popcorn smothered in butter and climbed into her parents' giant canopy bed and watched all the James Bond movies in a row. We were able to definitively determine that Pierce Brosnan was the skinniest James Bond, Sean Connery was the hairiest James Bond, and Roger Moore the most tan. None of the James Bonds took off their shirts enough for us to decide who had the best chest, but I do probably think it was Timothy Dalton. I like chest hair, I think. It was sort of ironic that while I was trying to decide this, Lily's brother came into the room. He had a shirt on, though. He looked kind of annoyed. He said that my dad was on the phone. My dad was all mad because he'd been trying to get through to us for hours. Only Michael was on the internet answering fan mail for his webzine Crackhead, so my dad just kept getting a busy signal. I must have looked like I was going to throw up or something because after a minute, Michael said, "Yeah, okay, don't worry about it, Thermopolis. I'll tell him you and Lily already went to bed," which is a lie my mother never would have believed. But it must have gone over pretty well with my dad since Michael came back in and reported that my dad had apologized for calling so late. It was only 11 o'clock. But that he'd speak to me in the morning. Great. I can't wait. I guess I must have looked like I was going to throw up because Michael called his dog and made him get in bed with us, even though pets aren't really allowed in the Dr. Moskovitz room. Pavlov crawled up into my lap and started licking my face, which he'll only do to people that he really trusts. And then Michael sat down to watch the movies with us. And in the interest of science, Lily asked him which Bond girls were the most attractive to him. The blondes who always need James Bond to rescue them, or the brunettes who are always pulling pew-pews on him. And Michael said that he couldn't resist a girl with a weapon, which got us started on his two favorite TV shows of all time, Xena Warrior Princess and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, their dog's name is Pavlov. So then, not really in the interest of science, but more out of plain curiosity, I asked Michael if it was the end of the world and he had to repopulate the planet, but he could only choose one life mate. Who would it be? Xena or Buffy? And after telling me how weird I was for thinking of something like that, Michael chose Buffy. And then Lily asked me if I had to choose between Harrison Ford or George Clooney, who it would be. And I said Harrison Ford, even though he's so old. The Harrison Ford from Indiana Jones, not the Star Wars Harrison Ford. And then Lily said she would choose Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan in those Tom Clancy movies. And then Michael goes, "Well, who would you choose, Harrison Ford or Leonardo DiCaprio?" And we both chose Harrison Ford because Leonardo is so passé. And then he went, "Who would you choose, Harrison Ford or Josh Richter?" And then Lily said Harrison Ford because he used to be a carpenter, and if it was the end of the world, he could build her a house. But then I said Josh Richter because he lived longer. Harrison Ford's like already 60, and he wouldn't even be able to give me a hand with the kids. And then Michael started saying all this totally unfair stuff about Josh Richter, like how in the face of nuclear Armageddon, he'd probably show cowardice, but Lily said fear of new things is not an accurate measure of one's potential for growth, which I agree on. And then Michael said that we were both idiots if we thought that Josh Richter would ever give us so much as the time of day, and he only liked girls like Lana Weinberger who put out, to which Lily responded that she would put out for Josh Richter if he was able to meet certain conditions like bathing beforehand in an antibacterial solution and wearing 3 condoms coated in spermicidal fluid during the act in case one broke or slipped off. And then Michael asked me if I would put out for Josh Richter, and I had to think about it for a minute. Losing your virginity is a really big step, and you have to do it with the right person, or else you could be screwed up for the rest of your life, like the women in Dr. Moskowitz's over 40 and still single group, which meets every other Tuesday. So after I thought about it, I said I would put out for Josh Richter, but only if, number 1, we had been dating for at least a year. Number 2, he had pledged his undying love to me. And number 3, he took me to see Beauty and the Beast on Broadway and he didn't make fun of it. Michael said that the first 2 sounded all right, but if the third one was an example of the kind of boyfriend I expected to get, then I'd be a virgin for a really, really long time. And he said he didn't know anyone with an ounce of testosterone who could watch Beauty and the Beast on Broadway without projectile vomiting, but he's wrong, because my dad definitely has testosterone. Well, anyway, at least one testicle full of it, and he's never projectile vomited at the show. And then Lily asked Michael who he would choose if he had to choose me or Lana Weinberger, and he said, Mia, of course. But I'm sure he was just saying that because I was right there in the room and he didn't want to diss me to my face. I wish Lily wouldn't do things like that, though. And then she kept on doing it, wanting to know who Michael would choose, me or Madonna, me or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He chose me over Madonna, but Buffy won hands down over me. And then Lily wanted to know who I would choose, Michael or Josh Richter. I I pretended to be seriously thinking about it when, to my total relief, the doctors Moscovitz came home and started yelling at us for letting Pavlov into the room and eating popcorn in their bed. So then, later, after Lily and I had cleaned up all the popcorn and gone back to her room, she asked me again, who would I choose, Josh Richter or her brother? And I had to say Josh Richter because Josh Richter's like the hottest boy in our entire school, maybe the whole world, and I'm completely and totally in love with him, and not just because the way that his blonde hair sometimes falls into his eyes when he's bent over and looking for stuff in his locker, but because I know that behind that jock facade that he maintains is a deeply sensitive and caring person. I could tell by the way he said hi to me at Bigelow's, but I couldn't help thinking that if it really were the end of the world, it might be better to be with Michael, even if he is so hot, but because he makes me laugh. I think at the end of the world, a sense of humor might be important. Plus, of course, Michael looks really good without a shirt. And if it really was the end of the world, Lily would be dead. So she'd never know that her brother and I were procreating. I'd never want Lily to feel that way about her brother. Ew, she would think it was weird. Weirder even than me turning out to be the Princess of Genovia. Later, on Saturday. The whole way home from Lily's, I worried about what my mom and dad were going to say when I got home. I never disobeyed them before. I mean, like, really, never. Well, okay, no. There was that one time that Lily and Shamik and Ling Su and I all went to Christian Slater's movie, and we ended up said we were going to the Christian Slater movie, but we ended up going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show instead, and I forgot to call until after the movie, which ended at like 2:30 in the morning, and we were in Times Square, and I didn't have enough money left for a cab. But that was just one time, right? And I totally learned a lesson from it without my mom having to ground me or anything like that. Not that she would ever do something like that, ground me. I mean, because like, who would go to the cash machine to get money for takeout if I was grounded? But my dad, he's another story. He's totally rigid in that like disciplinarian department. My mom says that it's because Grandmere used to punish him when he was a little boy by locking him into one of the big scary rooms in their house. Now that I think about it, the house that my dad grew up in was probably the castle. And that scary room was probably the dungeon. Geez, no wonder my dad does every single thing that Grandmere says. Anyway, when my dad gets mad at me, like really gets mad, yeah, like the time I wouldn't go to church with Grandmere because I refused to pray to a god who allows rainforests to be destroyed in order to make grazing room for cows who would later become quarter pounders for the ignorant masses who worship the symbol of all that is evil, Ronald McDonald. Not only did my dad tell me that if I didn't go to church, he'd wear out my behind, he said that he wouldn't let me read Michael's webzine Crackhead ever again. He refused to let me go online again for the rest of the summer. He crushed my modem with a magnum of Cheneuf de Pas. Talk about reactionary. So I was totally worried about what he was going to do when I got home from Lily's. I tried to hang out at the Moscovitzes as long as I could. I loaded up the breakfast dishes in the dishwasher for Maya since she was busy writing a letter to her congressman asking him to please do something about her son Manuel, who was wrongfully imprisoned 10 years ago for supporting a revolution in their country. I walked Pavlov since Michael had to go to an astrophysics lecture at Columbia. I even unclogged the jets in the Dr. Moscovitz's jacuzzi. Boy, does Lily's dad shed a lot or what? And then Lily had to go and announce that it was time to shoot the 1-hour special episode of her show, the one dedicated to feet. Only it turned out that the Dr. Moscovitz had not left like we thought they had for their Rolfing session. They totally overheard and told me that I had to go home while they analyzed Lily about her need to taunt her schmeck's crazed stalker. Here's the thing. I am generally a very good daughter. Look, I mean it. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I haven't given birth in any proms. I'm completely trustworthy and I do my homework most of the time, except for that one lousy F in the class that will be no use to me whatsoever in my future life. I am doing pretty well. And then they had to spring this princess thing on me. And I decided on my way home that if my dad tries to punish me in that way, I was going to call Judge Judy. He really would be sorry if he landed in front of Judge Judy because of this. She'd let him have it. Boy, let me tell you, she would. People trying to make other people into princesses when they don't want to be? Yeah, Judge Judy wouldn't stand for any of that. Of course, when I got home, it turned out I didn't have to call Judge Judy at all. My mom hadn't gone to her studio, which she does every Saturday without fail. No, she was sitting there waiting for me to come home, reading old copies of the subscription that she'd gotten me to 17 magazine before she realized I was too flat-chested to ever be asked out on a date. So all the information provided in that particular periodical was worthless to me. Then there was my dad, who was sitting in the exact same spot he had been in when I left before. Only this time, he was reading the Sunday Times, even though it was Saturday. My mom and I have this rule that you can't start reading the Sunday section until Sunday, but to my surprise, today he wasn't wearing a suit. Today he had only on a sweater, cashmere, no doubt given to him by one of his many girlfriends, and corduroy pants. And when I walked in, he folded the paper all carefully and put it down and gave me this long, intent look like Captain Picard right before he starts to go to Riker about the prime detective. And then he goes, "We need to talk." I immediately started in about how it wasn't like I hadn't told them where I was and how I just needed a little time to think about things and how I'd been really careful and I hadn't taken the subway or anything. And my dad just went, "I know." Just like that. "I know." He completely gave in without a fight. My dad. I looked at my mom to see if she noticed that he'd lost his mind, and then she did the craziest thing. She put the magazine down and she came over and hugged me and she said, "We're so sorry, baby." Hello? These are my parents? Did the body snatchers come while I was gone and replace these parents with pod people? Because that was the only way that I could think that my parents would be so reasonable. And then my dad goes, "We understand the stress that this has brought on you, Mia, and we want you to know that we'll do everything in our power to try to make this transition as smooth for you as possible." And then my dad asked me if I knew what a compromise was, and I said, yes, of course I know what a compromise is. I'm not in 3rd grade anymore. So he pulled out this piece of paper, and on it, we all drafted what my mom calls the Thermopolis Ronaldo Compromise. And it goes like this. I, the undersigned, Arthur Christoph Philippe Gerald Grimaldi Ronaldo, agreed that my sole offspring and heir, Amelia Mionette Grimaldi Thermopolis Ronaldo, may finish out her high school tenure at Albert Einstein High School for Boys, made coeducational in 1975, without interruption, save for Christmas and summer breaks, which she will spend without complaint in the country of Genovia. I asked if this meant no more summers at Mirganac, and he said yes. I couldn't believe it. Christmas and summers free of Grandmere? That would have to be like going to the dentist, and instead of having your cavities filled, I just get to read Teen People and suck up a lot of laughing gas. I was really happy. So happy that I hugged him right there, but unfortunately it turned out there was more to the agreement. I, the undersigned Amelia Mionette Grimaldi Thermopolis Ronaldo, agreed to fulfill the duties of heir to Arthur Christoph Philippe Gerald Grimaldi Ronaldo, Prince of Genovia, and all that role entails, including but not exclusive to assuming the throne upon the latter's demise and attending functions of state at which the presence of said heir is deemed essential. All of that sounded pretty good to me except for the last part. Functions of state. What were those? My dad got all vague at this point. He said, "Oh, you know, attending funerals of world leaders, opening balls, all sorts of things." Hello? Funerals, balls, whatever happened to smashing champagne bottles against ocean liners and going to Hollywood premieres and all that kind of thing? Well, my dad said, Hollywood premieres aren't really all they're pegged to be. Flashing bulbs going off on your face, that kind of thing, terribly unpleasant. Yeah, but funerals, balls, I don't even know how to put on lip liner, let alone curtsy. Oh, that's all right, my dad said, putting the cap back on his pen. Grandma will take care of that. Yeah, right. What can she do? She's in France. Spoiler alert, you guys. I don't think she's in France. I don't think Grandmere is in France anymore. I think we're about to meet Grandmere in the next episode. All right. Well, that was a joy for me. I hope it was a joy for you all. I hope this is as fun for you all as it is for me. I really love reading this again. It like lights up my life in a way that I had forgotten that it could. Yes. Should I tell you? I think I've told you guys the story about why her dad is dead in the movie before, right? Have I told you guys this story? She's in fact not in France. Of course, I will upload this episode after this, and we have class this afternoon. So I was at a reading. When I went to NYU, Meg Cabot actually came and did a book signing at the NYU bookstore, like for the students or whatever, when I was in school. And like people asked her if there were any funny stories about like her book getting made into a movie and all that stuff. And for those of you who don't know, this is the story she told. She said, I think I have it on video actually. I should try to find that video. Well, maybe not. It was like a long time ago. I don't know if there was videos on cell phones yet. But she said basically they were going through the casting process and they loved everybody that was coming up. They loved Anne Hathaway, like blah, blah, all this stuff. And she got a call from her agent, and her agent said to her, hey, we're gonna need to cut the dad from the film. And she said, absolutely not. He's an integral part to Mia's story. You can't cut him. And they said, well, we have someone really special that we want to play the grandmother, but to be able to afford her, we need to cut a character. So we were going to cut the dad. And she said, absolutely not. You cannot cut the dad. He's an integral part to Mia's story in my book. I don't think you understand. Or books. It was already multiple books at this point. I think by the time it was made into a movie, it was like 4 books by then. And the woman on the other end just said, it's Julie Andrews. And she said, kill him. Click. She was like, no hesitation. As soon as she found out that Julie Andrews was going to be in her movie, she was like, don't care, kill anyone you need to. Because that's what we would all do, right? I mean, when you find out Julie Andrews is going to play one of your characters, you stop caring about the rest, right? I mean, I totally, that embodies exactly how I feel about all of it. So, yeah. But that was very funny. Kill him, click. And so he died in the movie. Listen, you have to make sacrifices for Julie Andrews. You know what I'm saying? It's really important. So anyway, I'll be back on later to teach class for Patreon. And then if you are a Patreon person, keep an eye out, because today there will be posts voting about the time for restock. Some of the stuff in restock, I have a weird brain, Noah. I have a really weird brain. I can remember really wackadoodle stories and stuff. Like I remember a lot of weird things. Yeah. But some of the slimes in the restock will be unlimited for Patreon people. Some will not, depending on supplies. But anyway, keep an eye out. Can I get clay from Walmart? Yeah. I don't see why not. They usually carry it. They, at the very bare minimum, they carry Model Magic for sure. Walmart might have Modelite, which is even better. Some Walmarts carry it, some don't, but they definitely have Model Magic, no question. So Model Magic will work in a pinch, no problem. Just have lotion on hand if you're gonna use Model Magic. If you're using Modelite, you don't need lotion. Modelite comes in like a circular tub like this. I won't be probably going to hockey. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, everyone is different, Roxy. All the different Walmarts are different. Like here in person in California, they don't have it, but in other places they do, and you can get it online. But like a lot of Walmarts do have Modelite, but they all have Model Magic. So definitely that. Target also has Model Magic. If you live near a Michael's, they have Model Magic for sure. They also have other clays you can use, which is good. But the Modelite comes in a white circular tub like this, whereas the Model Magic comes in a bag. They both work in this case. Yeah. So I will see you all later, and I hope you have a great day until class. Couldn't find Modelite on it. Modelite is not sold on Amazon at all. Modelite is only sold through Walmart. I live in the country, so it's slim pickings. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, there is no Modelite on Amazon at all. That's why I linked a different clay to Amazon if people wanted it. In the post, I did put a link to one that is available on Amazon, but it is not Modelite. That is never available on Amazon. They just don't offer it. If you see Modelite on Amazon, be wary of it, because it's probably a third-party seller, and I've purchased those before and they've come to me and they've not been Modelite. So be wary of those. But Walmart does carry it, both online and in some stores. So yeah, that's the whole kit and caboodle, and I will see you all at 2 o'clock.